Hello, welcome back to Holy Histories. Today we're diving into one of the most inspiring stories in the Bible. We dive into a powerful and timeless story from the Bible that teaches us about faith, courage, and divine protection. It's the story of Daniel in the den of lions. Join us as we explore how one man's unwavering devotion to God led to miraculous deliverance. But before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of our exciting biblical adventures. Daniel's journey to prominence in the Persian Empire began long before the events surrounding the lion's den. As a young man, Daniel had been taken from his homeland in Judah during the Babylonian exile. Although a foreigner in a strange land, he quickly distinguished himself through his wisdom, godly character, and the ability to interpret dreams, gifts that had been granted to him by God. Daniel chapter 1, verse 17. This was first seen when Daniel interpreted King Nebuchadnezzar's troubling dream, something none of the king's magicians or wise men could do. Daniel chapter 2, verses 26 to 28. As a result, Daniel was appointed ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed in charge of all its wise men. Daniel chapter 2, verse 48. Years later, after the Babylonian Empire was conquered by the Medes and Persians, Daniel's exceptional qualities did not go unnoticed. King Darius, the new ruler, recognized Daniel's integrity, loyalty, and wisdom. Darius appointed him as one of the 3 administrators responsible for overseeing the 120 satraps who were tasked with managing the kingdom's affairs. Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 to 2. Daniel's ability to govern effectively set him apart from the other administrators. The Bible tells us that Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Daniel chapter 6, verse 3. His reputation for excellence and honesty was well known, and King Darius trusted him implicitly. Daniel's rise to power, despite being a Jewish exile in a foreign empire, is a profound testament to the role of integrity, competence, and godly wisdom in leadership. His story reminds us that Daniel remained faithful to God in every season of his life, whether he was a captive in Babylon or a high-ranking official under Persian rule. His commitment to excellence and his godly character transcended his circumstances. Daniel is a shining example that God honors those who honor him, even in positions of secular power. Daniel's rise to power was not simply the result of his own abilities, it was also a clear example of God's hand at work. From interpreting dreams to administering the vast Persian Empire, Daniel's success was rooted in the wisdom God gave him. Daniel chapter 1, verse 17. This speaks to the reality that God often grants favor and opens doors for his people, placing them in strategic positions of influence. This truth is relevant today as Christians seek to live out their faith in the workplace, in politics, and in other spheres of influence. As seen in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 29, "Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank." Daniel served faithfully in a secular government, but he did so without compromising his faith. His life demonstrates that believers can serve in positions of power and influence in secular societies without abandoning their spiritual convictions. Daniel's life illustrates how to remain faithful to God while excelling in these roles. As Daniel rose in power, his success inevitably stirred jealousy and opposition among his peers. The Bible says that the administrators and satraps were envious of Daniel's favor with the king and sought a way to bring him down. Daniel chapter 6, verse 4. However, they could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Daniel chapter 6, verse 4. This aspect of Daniel's life applies today, especially in environments where competition can lead to envy or sabotage. Like Daniel, modern-day Christians are called to maintain their integrity, even when faced with opposition, knowing that God is their ultimate defender. As Proverbs chapter 16 verse 7 states, "When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them." As Daniel continued to distinguish himself through his integrity and exceptional performance, it became clear to the other officials and satraps that they would not be able to compete with him for the king's favor. Their jealousy grew as they realized King Darius planned to appoint Daniel over the entire kingdom. Daniel chapter 6 verse 3. But despite their resentment, they could not find any fault in him. The Bible explicitly notes that they could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Daniel chapter 6 verse 4. Daniel's life was above reproach. His personal and professional conduct was impeccable. This frustrated the officials even more. Realizing that they would not be able to bring Daniel down through legal or ethical means, they conspired to use his deep devotion to God as the very thing to destroy him. These men understood that Daniel's unwavering commitment to prayer and worship of the God of Israel was central to his life. They devised a plan that would put Daniel's faith in direct conflict with the laws of the kingdom. The conspirators approached King Darius with what appeared to be a flattering suggestion. They said, "O King Darius, live forever. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except to you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the den of lions." Daniel chapter 6 verses 6 to 7. This proposal played on the king's ego, presenting him as the supreme figure of worship in the empire for a short period. Although the officials framed their proposal as something that would strengthen loyalty to the king, their true motive was to entrap Daniel, knowing that he would never stop praying to God. The suggestion appealed to Darius, who was likely swayed by the apparent loyalty and unity of his officials. He saw the decree as a way to solidify his power and reinforce his authority across the kingdom. Without realizing the trap being set for Daniel, Darius was flattered and agreed to issue the decree. The Bible records that King Darius put the decree in writing. Daniel chapter 6 verse 9. Once a decree was signed under the law of the Medes and Persians, it was irrevocable and could not be altered, not even by the king himself. Daniel chapter 6 verse 8. What made the decree particularly cunning was its short time frame, 30 days. The officials likely chose this period knowing it would be long enough to trap Daniel, yet short enough to avoid causing too much disruption to the kingdom. The decree prohibited anyone from praying to any god or human being except the king for that period, and anyone caught violating this law would be thrown into the den of lions, a brutal and certain death sentence. Their plan was set. The conspirators were confident that Daniel's consistent prayer life would be the very thing that sealed his fate. They knew he prayed regularly, as it was his custom to pray 3 times a day, facing toward Jerusalem. Daniel chapter 6 verse 10. By crafting a law that directly targeted Daniel's devotion to God, the jealous officials believed they had finally found a way to destroy him, all while appearing loyal to the king. In the ancient world, especially in the Persian Empire, the laws of the Medes and Persians were considered unchangeable. Once a king issued a decree, it could not be revoked or modified, even by the king himself. Esther chapter 8 verse 8. This tradition ensured that the king's word carried immense weight and authority, but it also meant that kings had to be cautious about the laws they enacted. In this case, King Darius had no idea that he was setting a trap for his most trusted advisor, Daniel. By signing the decree, Darius inadvertently became a tool in the hands of the jealous officials, who now had a legal means to target Daniel without directly implicating themselves. The plot against Daniel was now fully in motion. The officials had manipulated the king's pride and the legal system to create a deadly dilemma for Daniel. The stage was set for one of the most famous tests of faith in the Bible. One of the most remarkable aspects of Daniel's story is his unwavering faith in God, which serves as an inspiring reminder that steadfast trust in God pays off, no matter the circumstances. Despite the looming threat of the lion's den, Daniel's commitment to his faith did not falter. His actions highlight the importance of consistent prayer and an unshakable belief in God's sovereignty, regardless of the external pressures or dangers. After King Darius signed the irrevocable decree forbidding prayer to anyone except the king, Daniel's response was immediate and clear. Now, when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Daniel chapter 6, verse 10. This verse powerfully illustrates Daniel's consistency in prayer. He did not change his practice out of fear, nor did he attempt to hide his devotion to God, even though he knew his life was at risk. Daniel's decision to continue praying despite the decree shows that his faith was not dependent on circumstances. He did not let fear of punishment stop him from doing what was right in God's eyes. As Psalm chapter 55 verse 17 says, "Evening, morning, and noon, I cry out in distress, and he hears my voice." Daniel exemplified this attitude, crying out to God, at the same times daily, trusting that God was in control, even though his obedience to God's command could cost him his life. Daniel's unwavering faith is a testament to his deep trust in God's ability to protect and deliver. His faith was not conditional. He did not pray to avoid punishment, but out of his consistent relationship with God. Philippians chapter 4 verse 6 reminds believers, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." Daniel lived out this instruction, praying with thanksgiving in the face of adversity, and God responded to his faith. Daniel's faith was ultimately rewarded. When he was thrown into the lion's den, God sent his angel to shut the mouths of the lions, and Daniel emerged unharmed. Daniel chapter 6 verse 22. Daniel's consistent faithfulness did not go unnoticed by King Darius either. After witnessing Daniel's miraculous survival, Darius declared to all the nations and peoples of the earth that they must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. Daniel chapter 6 verse 26. This demonstrates that Daniel's faith not only impacted his own life, but also brought glory to God and influenced an entire kingdom. His life became a testimony of God's power and faithfulness, spreading the message of God's sovereignty far and wide. After the plot against Daniel unfolded, the officials eagerly brought the news of Daniel's disobedience to King Darius. They reported that Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, had ignored the king's decree by continuing to pray to his God 3 times a day. King Darius was greatly distressed when he heard this. Though he valued Daniel highly and did not wish to harm him, he realized he had been trapped by the decree he had signed. Under the law of the Medes and Persians, once a decree was made, it could not be revoked. Daniel chapter 6 verse 15. Despite his deep regret, Darius was bound by the law and had no choice but to carry out the sentence. The Bible tells us that Darius was determined to rescue Daniel and made every effort until sundown to save him. Daniel chapter 6 verse 14. The king, however, could find no legal loophole that would allow him to spare Daniel. The officials, aware of the king's sympathy for Daniel, pressured Darius by reminding him that the law could not be changed. Daniel chapter 6 verse 15. Faced with no other option, Darius ordered Daniel to be thrown into the den of lions. As Daniel was led to his fate, Darius expressed hope that Daniel's God, whom he had consistently served, would deliver him. "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." Daniel chapter 6 verse 16. It is notable that even the king, who had been influenced by pagan worship and had issued the decree that promoted his own glory, recognized the possibility that Daniel's God was powerful enough to save him from such a terrible fate. Once Daniel was placed in the lion's den, a stone was rolled over the entrance to seal him inside. The king himself sealed the stone with his own signet ring, along with the seals of his nobles, ensuring that no one could intervene. Daniel chapter 6, verse 17. This act symbolized the finality of the situation. There was no human hope left for Daniel. The den was sealed, and the powerful lions within would have been expected to immediately tear him apart. But the story was far from over. While Daniel was in the lion's den, King Darius returned to his palace, deeply troubled. The Bible describes how the king spent the night in anguish. He spent the night without eating and without any entertainment being brought to him. And he could not sleep, Daniel chapter 6, verse 18. His distress reflects his growing awareness that Daniel's life hung in the balance, but more importantly, it also suggests that Darius had been impacted by Daniel's faith. Though Darius was a king with vast power, he recognized that there was something greater at play than human authority, the hand of God. This sleepless night was marked by anxious anticipation, as Darius hoped that the God whom Daniel served might intervene. Meanwhile, in the den, Daniel's faith was being tested in the most extreme way possible. Surrounded by lions, he was utterly vulnerable, with no way to defend himself. Yet Daniel had something greater than any physical defense, his unshakable trust in God. He had spent his entire life in faithful service to God, and he believed that whether God delivered him or not, his fate was in the hands of the Almighty. As the night passed, God acted in a miraculous way to protect his servant. Daniel later testified that, "My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight." Daniel chapter 6, verse 22. God had sent an angel to shield Daniel from harm, rendering the ferocious lions completely powerless. This divine intervention not only demonstrated God's ability to control nature, but also proved his faithfulness to those who remain loyal to him. The lions, which were known for their lethal strength and hunger, were unable to touch Daniel because God had intervened on his behalf. This supernatural event speaks volumes about God's sovereignty and his power to deliver his people in the most impossible situations. At the first light of dawn, King Darius hurried to the lion's den. Despite the decree and the sealing of the stone, Darius seemed to hold on to a thread of hope that Daniel's God had delivered him. When he reached the den, he called out in an anguished voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Daniel chapter 6, verse 20. The fact that Darius referred to Daniel's God as the living God shows a significant shift in his perception. He had seen many gods worshipped in the Persian Empire, but none of them had the power to deliver like the God of Israel. To the king's great relief, Daniel responded from within the den, "May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." Daniel chapter 6, verse 22. Daniel's calm response from within the den must have astonished the king and all who were with him. Not only was Daniel alive, but he had also spent the night untouched by the lions. King Darius was overjoyed and immediately gave orders for Daniel to be lifted out of the den. When Daniel emerged, the Bible records that no wound was found on him because he had trusted in his God. Daniel chapter 6, verse 23. This moment was a powerful testament to the fact that Daniel's faith in God had protected him. His survival was not just physical, it was also a spiritual victory, demonstrating God's care for those who are faithful. Following Daniel's miraculous rescue, King Darius turned his attention to those who had falsely accused Daniel. The Bible records that he ordered the conspirators, along with their families, to be thrown into the lion's den. Before they even reached the floor of the den, the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Daniel chapter 6, verse 24. The story of Daniel in the lion's den teaches believers to trust God in all circumstances, to maintain integrity, and to rely on prayer. It reminds us that God is both our protector and our just judge, and that faithfulness to Him will be rewarded. In times of trial, Daniel's example encourages us to stand firm, knowing that God's power is greater than any opposition we might face. What an incredible story of faith and resilience! Daniel's unwavering commitment to God in the face of danger is a powerful reminder for all of us. If you found inspiration in Daniel's story, please give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments section below. How can you apply this lesson of faith in your own life? Remember to subscribe for more engaging stories from the Bible, and until next time, stay blessed and keep shining your light.